You're the one who made a move on Alex, aren't you?
I arrived at my in-laws' house for the family introduction gathering. But for some reason, an unfamiliar woman was waiting for me there. As soon as she spotted me, she rushed over with intense speed. Ouch! Her right hand swung wide and struck my left cheek. A sharp pain shot through, leaving it tingling.
Keep your hands off my man, you poor countrywoman.
For some reason, she glared at me with fury. "Mom, can I beat her up?" I whispered into my mother's ear. There was no way I could stay quiet. Emily's behavior had pushed me to my limit, and I was ready to retaliate. But my mother held my hand, stopping me.
No, leave it to me.
Her eyes were sharp, and I could instantly tell that she was just as furious with her as I was.
What do you think you're doing to my daughter? An ex like you should know better than to meddle.
Her powerful words left Emily visibly shaken. My name is Jessica Anderson, 34 years old. Right now, I live with my husband, Alex, who's 4 years older than me. We met through mutual friends.
What? Jessica, you're into that band too?
Yes, I go to their concerts a lot.
I'm a huge fan too.
Alex and I shared similar tastes in music, and we quickly hit it off because of that. And it didn't take long for us to start dating. After 2 years together, when we were beginning to think about marriage, I found out I was pregnant with Alex's child. Alex, I have something to tell you. I was sweating with nerves when I was about to break the news. I had no idea how he'd react. Nervously, I told him about the pregnancy.
Pregnant. This is amazing.
Alex's eyes sparkled as he raised his hands in joy. And then he immediately became serious.
Actually, I was planning to propose soon. Sorry, the order is a bit off. Will you marry me?
He shared his feelings with me. It turned out Alex was thinking about marriage too. I'm so happy. Let's live happily together as a family of 3. Shortly after, we registered our marriage. When our families heard the news, they were thrilled and shed tears of joy. I was overjoyed to have their blessing. After the wedding, Alex and I started living together. But after about a month, something unsettling happened. About a month after we moved in, I found trash stuffed into our mailbox. Crumpled paper and empty cans. Things that were clearly put there on purpose. At first, I thought it was just a minor nuisance, but it kept happening. After a few times, I started to feel uncomfortable and told Alex about it.
Trash in the mailbox. That's just awful.
Alex's face twisted in disgust as he listened. If this harassment keeps up, I think we should talk to the property manager. Maybe it's someone from the neighborhood. Since we have security cameras, we might be able to figure out who's been harassing us. With that hope in mind, I thought reporting it was the natural thing to do. But when I told Alex my plan, he suddenly looked uncomfortable.
Isn't that a bit of an overreaction? We don't have to go that far.
What?
They're just putting trash in the mailbox, right? Nothing else is happening. We could just throw it out ourselves. Besides, it could just be some kids playing around. Let's not make a big deal out of it.
Why should we be the ones to put up with this? Alex seemed to think it wasn't serious enough to involve the building manager. But even if it was a prank by kids, the fact remained that it was unpleasant. I was also scared because there was a chance the harassment could escalate. What if it's not just a prank by kids? What if someone's deliberately targeting us?
Wait, Jessica, do you have any enemies or something?
Not exactly. No matter how much I tried to express my fears, Alex just scoffed. His attitude only fueled my frustration. But I knew talking to him wasn't going to solve anything. Fine, I'll handle it myself and call the building manager. Ignoring Alex's words, I went to make the call myself. Then, suddenly, Alex, looking strangely flustered, stopped me.
All right, all right. I'll call them myself, okay? It's late anyway, so it might bother them if we call now.
I mean, I guess so. Considering how much he had resisted earlier, I doubted he'd actually call. But it was indeed late, so I decided to let him handle it for now. If the harassment didn't stop, I could always call myself. That's what I thought. But from that day on, the harassment suddenly stopped entirely.
The building manager said they figured out who the culprit was, so they probably warned them.
Since Alex also mentioned it, I assumed there'd be no more trash in the mailbox. With my morning sickness worsening, I finally felt relieved that the issue had been resolved. But maybe it was around that time that things started to change. Alex began spending more time away from home, supposedly because work was getting busier. He'd leave early in the morning and return late at night. Working again today? You've been at it nonstop these past few days. Are you okay?
Sorry, there's been some trouble at the office.
He gave me an apologetic look and left the house. But it wasn't just that. His phone would often buzz late at night.
Sorry, it's my boss calling.
With that, Alex would grab his phone and go to another room to talk. After talking for a while, he'd come back to me.
My boss keeps calling, probably drunk, just being persistent.
He muttered, "You know, I don't mind if you take the call here. Isn't it a hassle to go to another room each time?" Every time his boss called, Alex would go to the next room. I tried to be considerate, but Alex just sighed.
Come on, you know I can't discuss work stuff around outsiders. That's just basic professionalism, right?
Well, I guess so. His condescending tone grated on me. But since I quit my job after getting married and was now a full-time housewife, I felt like I had no right to object. Even after that, Alex continued to take his calls in secret, out of my sight. But really, would a boss call him at such late hours, even if it was work-related? I started to grow suspicious of Alex. He was frequently away from home and constantly in contact with someone. Could he possibly be cheating on me? After all, Alex never lets his phone out of his sight. Maybe there was something on it he didn't want me to see. Once I started thinking like that, my doubts only grew. But even if I wanted to check, Alex always has his phone with him, and I don't know the password. I even checked his work clothes pockets, but found nothing suspicious. It would be difficult for me to follow him around while pregnant, and hiring a private investigator would be expensive. After weighing my options, I realized that none of them were realistic. In the end, I had no choice but to keep living with Alex while holding on to my suspicions. Then, one day, my severe morning sickness finally settled down, and I entered a more stable phase of my pregnancy. So, we decided it was finally time to hold the postponed family introduction gathering.
Jessica, are you sure you're up for this? Don't push yourself too hard.
If it's okay with your folks, why don't we have the gathering at our place?
Really? That would be great. Thank you. Alex's parents' house was about a 15-minute drive from where we lived. The closer the location, the happier it made me. However, my parents lived farther away, so they would need to take a train and a bus to get here. Sorry to make you all go out of your way for this.
Don't say that. You're pregnant, Jessica. You shouldn't be overdoing it.
For the baby's sake, closer is better. Don't worry about it.
Both my in-laws and my parents prioritized my needs in every decision. Although I had entered a more stable phase of pregnancy, my body felt heavy and everything was exhausting. So, I was grateful for their thoughtfulness. Meanwhile, Alex continued with his suspicious behavior. Finished with your call?
Yeah, I'm getting so many calls. It's exhausting.
By that time, Alex was constantly in touch with his boss every night. It was getting a bit too suspicious. Why don't you just ignore the calls? Maybe he keeps calling because he knows you'll pick up every time. I was tempted to confront him, but I tried to keep my tone neutral as I asked him. Lately, it's been every day, hasn't it? Isn't it a bit much?
Well, of course I'd like to ignore it, but he's my boss. I have to face him at work, so I can't just ignore him.
But
Work relationships are important, you know. You have no idea, so just keep out of it.
Alex's tone grew increasingly firm in response to my question. Then he abruptly looked away and headed toward the bedroom. If I asked any more, it would only make him angrier. From that day on, I decided not to bring up the calls again. 1 week later, the day of the family gathering finally arrived. Alex and I picked up my parents at the train station, and the four of us headed to his parents' house. Being naturally sociable, Alex chatted happily with my parents, even though he'd only met them a few times before.
Jessica is really amazing. I'm so lucky to have married her.
He smiled at me as if our previous argument had never happened. All I could do was return a forced smile. Eventually, we arrived safely at Alex's parents' house. We were about to ring the doorbell, but just then,
You're the one who went after Alex, aren't you?
an unfamiliar woman appeared out of nowhere. She raised her voice and shouted at me. Then she rushed straight toward me. "Who are you?" I asked immediately, but she ignored me. Her eyes narrowed as she shot me a sharp, intense glare. Then I heard Alex mutter under his breath.
Emily, why are you here?
Apparently, Alex knew this woman. I immediately tried to ask Alex about her. But at that moment, the woman swung her right hand high. I tried to dodge, but I was too late. Her hand landed squarely on my left cheek. Ouch! The force nearly knocked me over, but my mother caught me just in time. My mother supported my body as I staggered.
Jessica, are you okay?
My parents looked at me with faces drained of color. "I'm fine, thanks." Pain shot through my cheek, leaving it tingling and numb. Thankfully, my mother supported me, so I didn't seem to have any injuries beyond my cheek. "What on earth is your problem?"
Keep your hands off my man, you poor countrywoman.
The woman glared at me, her expression fierce as a demon's. Alex rushed over to her.
Hey, Emily, what do you think you're doing?
What do you mean? This is punishment for going after Alex. There's no way someone poor like you deserves my man.
It seemed her name was Emily. I turned to Alex with a questioning look. "Alex, who is this person?"
Well,
Alex's eyes darted nervously, but as both Emily and I kept staring, he finally spoke up.
Emily is an old friend from childhood.
Apparently, she lived near his parents' house and had known Alex since elementary school. They had even dated back in high school.
I'm Alex's ex-girlfriend.
Emily said smugly. Alex made a face of clear discomfort. Apparently, he didn't want me to find out. "So, what does this ex-girlfriend want with us?"
I'm telling you, it's ridiculous for a woman like you to marry Alex. He and I were madly in love back in the day.
Jessica, don't get the wrong idea. Emily and I broke up ages ago.
From the conversation, I gathered that Emily was still in love with Alex, and she resented that he married me. But how dare she came on the gathering day?
I'm way better suited to Alex than you are. Go back to wherever you came from.
Emily kept on hurling insults at me. Her voice grated on my nerves, and the cheek that Emily slapped was throbbing with pain. I couldn't just stay quiet any longer. My fists clenched tightly as I shook with anger. "Mom, can I beat her up?" I whispered into my mother's ear. I was fed up with Emily's behavior and ready to retaliate. But my mother grabbed my hand, stopping me.
No, let me handle this.
Maybe it was because I was pregnant that she decided to step in for me. Her eyes were sharp, and it was clear she was as furious as I was.
What do you think you're doing to my daughter? She's carrying Alex's child.
I don't care. Alex belongs to me.
Who do you think you are? An old flame coming back to meddle in his life?
At first, my mother tried to stay calm, but her tone grew harsher.
How dare you lay a hand on my precious daughter? You better be ready to face the consequences.
Unbeknownst to most, my mother used to be a member of a motorcycle gang in her youth. Normally, she was mild-mannered, but when angered, she could be terrifying. My father and I knew this well, so we stood by in silence, watching.
Well, say something. Don't just stand there like a statue.
The intensity in my mother's voice made Emily's expression slowly shift.
Well, I.
Apologize to Jessica right now.
My mother's fury kept escalating. It looked like she was about to take it further. Seeing this, my father quickly intervened.
Calm down, honey. Don't get physical.
But
In the midst of the commotion, Alex's parents came out of the house, likely having heard the noise. They looked at Emily in shock.
Emily, what are you doing here?
Alex, what is going on? Why is Emily here?
Under his parents' questioning gaze, Alex turned pale.
I don't know. Emily just showed up out of nowhere.
He frantically tried to explain that there was nothing between him and Emily. But Emily moved closer to him, sidling up beside him.
Oh, so you're just going to keep hiding our history? Isn't it fine to admit it by now?
What are you talking about?
Alex, visibly shaking, tried to cut her off. But Emily ignored him and kept talking.
After I split from my husband, I ran into Alex again.
Apparently, Emily had been married a few years back but was now divorced.
I'd heard the rumors. Emily, was it true you were unfaithful?
Oh, John, you've heard about that? How embarrassing.
Since they lived nearby, Alex's parents had heard the local gossip about Emily. It seemed her infidelity had been the reason for her divorce. Yet Emily showed no remorse, casually recounting the story.
My ex-husband was so uptight. I only messed around with another guy once, and he wanted a divorce. I mean, who needs a man like that?
She explained that after the divorce, she had returned to her hometown and reconnected with Alex.
When I was dating Alex, it was the best time of my life. Spending time with him is just like it used to be. So I thought, why not try getting back together?
Getting back together? When exactly did this happen?
It was about a year ago, wasn't it?
Hey, don't say unnecessary things.
Alex snapped at Emily. Of course, a year ago, Alex and I were already dating. This meant he had been unfaithful. Thinking about marriage with me while getting back together with Emily was a complete betrayal. I was speechless, overwhelmed by anger and shock. But Alex quickly tried to explain.
Jessica, you're getting it wrong. Don't misunderstand. I turned her down. Emily kept bothering me even though I told her no.
What? That's not true. You told me you were happy to see me again.
That doesn't mean I agreed to get back together. I just said it was nice to catch up after a long time.
Alex, you shouldn't have said things that could be misunderstood. But Emily, give it up already. Alex is married to Jessica.
Alex's parents both looked at Emily with cold stares. They must have been unable to forgive Emily for trying to destroy the happiness Alex and I had.
Jessica and her family are being troubled by this. So please leave right now.
And let's not forget you slapped my daughter, didn't you? I'm not forgiving you for that.
Wait, slapped her?
Alex's mother's eyes widened at my mother's words. My mother took the chance to explain what had happened while Alex's parents were inside. Alex's father's face darkened with anger.
Jessica is pregnant. How would you have taken responsibility if something had happened?
We'll be filing a police report about this.
What? Isn't that going a bit too far?
At the mention of police report, Emily turned pale. She hadn't expected things to get this serious. But she had raised her hand against me, so it was only natural. Both Alex's parents and mine berated Emily on my behalf. But my focus was on Alex's reaction. He was sweating nervously, looking down to avoid eye contact with Emily and his parents. His ex had suddenly appeared and hit his wife. Yes, anyone would be shaken, but his expression looked far worse than just shock. Did you really tell her you couldn't be with her? I looked at Alex directly, and he averted his gaze.
Yes, I told you already, didn't I? I told her clearly that I had you, Jessica.
His voice trembled. It sounded suspicious. So I turned to Emily. Alex is saying this. Did you still keep pursuing him, Emily? Emily's face flushed red with anger.
What? You keep treating me like a stalker. Sure, I reached out to him a lot at first because he kept ignoring my messages. But then, months later, Alex was the one who contacted me.
You're lying. I never.
What kind of message did Alex send you? Though Alex denied it, I doubted Emily was lying. Actually, Alex's reaction seemed more off. When I encouraged Emily to answer, she began speaking freely.
You had no idea he was cheating, did you? Alex reached out to me after he found out you were pregnant.
To my shock, I learned that while I was suffering from morning sickness, Alex was involved with Emily. Emily confidently showed me the messages on her phone, where there were explicit conversations between her and Alex. Scrolling through, I saw a message that caught my eye.
My wife isn't doing any chores around the house. Maybe I should have married you, Emily.
It was true. There had been a period when I could barely manage household tasks because of severe morning sickness. Even though Alex never blamed me for it and even helped with the chores, it seems he was secretly frustrated with me. So I guess I was wrong to think he was a kind husband. But running to another woman? That's just pathetic.
Jessica, please. Don't trust Emily. Trust me. All these messages are fake. I haven't contacted Emily at all.
Alex pleaded desperately, trying to defend himself. At that moment, my mother raised her voice in anger.
Are you seriously going to keep lying at this point? Just so you know, this isn't the only evidence we have. We've also got photos of you and that woman meeting up together.
What?
Alex's face turned blank with shock, and his parents were left stunned, clearly taken aback by the revelation of their son's infidelity. I had actually consulted my mother when I first started suspecting Alex of cheating. She listened to my concerns and said,
I'll cover the cost, so make sure to get the facts. You're about to give birth and raise a child, right? You probably don't want to spend your own money on this.
well, that's true. If Alex really was cheating, I'd be left raising a child on my own. With that in mind, I didn't want to spend any more money than necessary. But without funding, I couldn't even conduct an investigation. Understanding how I felt, my mother offered to help.
It's best to find out before the baby arrives. For my daughter, this is worth every penny. And if it turns out he's not cheating, you can be at ease, right?
Mom, thank you. There was, of course, a chance that Alex wasn't cheating. If that turned out to be the case, we could carry on happily together. Holding on to that faint hope, I used the funds from my mother to hire a private investigator. But that hope was brutally crushed. Alex had lied about being at work and was secretly meeting up with Emily. There were dozens of photos to prove it. Just thinking about it makes me feel sick. Moreover, the investigation revealed that Emily was the one stuffing garbage into our mailbox. I thought Alex had contacted the property manager and stopped the harassment. But in reality, he hadn't reached out at all. The harassment continued without my knowledge, and Alex was quietly taking out the garbage each time. Wow, how sweet of him to secretly clean up after my little pranks, huh?
No, it's not like that.
Alex stammered, his mouth opening and closing as if he hadn't expected his knowledge of the harassment to be exposed. It seemed he'd carefully checked the mailbox every morning and night to avoid me finding out. All that effort had gone to waste. Emily, why did you go to such lengths with this harassment?
Isn't it obvious? To make you and Alex break up. The harassment started after you two moved in together. Anyone would find it creepy and leave, don't you think?
Emily apparently thought her harassment was a brilliant plan. I was so appalled by her childish thinking that I couldn't even respond. Then Emily scrolled back through her messages with Alex and smugly showed me her phone screen.
Look, see this. Alex never got mad about my pranks. In fact, he sent me sweet messages. Now, who do you think he really loves?
She sneered, waving her phone at me. Sure enough, there were messages on the screen.
I'm sorry for making you feel this insecure. It's my fault, isn't it? I'll divorce my wife, so please wait for me.
It seemed Alex had even been considering divorce. Well, this simplified things. Perfect timing. I was actually planning to talk about divorce today.
What are you saying? Today is supposed to be an important family meeting. Divorce? Are you joking?
I gathered all this evidence because I wanted a divorce from you as soon as possible. I worked hard for this, so please don't make this difficult.
You brought this on yourself by betraying Jessica. Do you even realize how much pain she's been through?
I had already discussed the divorce with my parents, who had funded the investigation. In fact, my parents had come here not for a family gathering, but for this very discussion. When Alex's parents realized this, they hurriedly apologized to me.
We are truly sorry for the pain our son has caused you, Jessica.
I never thought he would cheat. Alex, what on earth were you thinking?
Alex flinched at his father's scolding, his body trembling, and tears filled his eyes.
Why did you investigate me? Jessica's not even working, so I didn't think she'd have money for that.
It was clear Alex had greatly underestimated me. He had never thought I'd catch on. even while he kept up constant calls with Emily. Emily, why would you even want a man like him? Cheaters will just cheat again. You could be the next one he betrays.
What? I'm not like you. We've been together a long time, so he'd never betray me. Right, Alex?
With a smug smile, Emily turned to Alex. He was still trembling.
How did it come to this? It's all Emily's fault.
What? How is this my fault? You're going to divorce your wife and marry me, right? Everything turned out fine.
Emily said, showing no remorse. Alex's anger boiled over at her attitude.
Turned out fine? Are you kidding me? This wouldn't have happened if you hadn't started all that harassment.
What? Why are you mad at me?
I never planned to divorce Jessica. Emily was just a fling. Jessica, let's try again.
Ignoring Emily, Alex turned to me. His eyes empty, his intentions unclear. Sensing danger, I tried to distance myself, but Emily moved toward him first.
Hold on. Are you saying I was just a fling? Don't be ridiculous. You were the one who came on to me.
She was furious at being dismissed so easily. Alex gave her a cold, disdainful look.
Shut up. You were the one who wouldn't leave me alone. I turned you down, but you kept pushing.
Alex turned back to me, pleading and trying to gain my forgiveness. Meanwhile, Emily continued to scream at him. Honestly, I couldn't bear to watch their argument. It was the same for both my parents and in-laws. Everyone looked at Alex and Emily with cold, disapproving eyes. I'd had enough. I pulled out the divorce papers I'd prepared beforehand and held them out to Alex. Will you sign these right now? Even after I said that, Alex shook his head vigorously in refusal.
Jessica, please. Just wait. I'm sorry. I'll never cheat again. Please, reconsider the divorce.
He deeply apologized to me. Seeing him like this, I realized I had no feelings left for him. No matter how much he apologized, I would never forgive him. I never wanted to see his face again. That's how much cheating during my pregnancy felt like an unforgivable betrayal to me. I can't live with you anymore. Just the thought makes me sick. Please, let's divorce.
No.
Alex, sign the papers for Jessica's sake. That's all you can do now.
Don't make Jessica suffer any further.
Reluctantly, Alex finally gave in, unable to resist the pressure from both his parents and mine. He agreed to the divorce, tears in his eyes. Emily, meanwhile, watched with a smug smile.
Congratulations. What's with the long face? Now we can finally get married, so it's actually a good thing.
It seemed that as long as Emily could marry Alex, nothing else mattered to her. While the idea of them being happy together was a bit annoying, at this point, I didn't care. Or at least, that's what I thought.
Alex, if you marry Emily, we'll cut all ties with you.
Alex's father glared at him with a severe expression. It seemed Alex's parents had had enough of his behavior.
Dad, what are you saying? I'm your oldest son. You can't just disown me.
Alex looked genuinely shocked that even his parents were turning their backs on him. He sounded even more shaken than before, his voice lacking any strength.
You're not serious about disowning me, right?
As long as you don't marry Emily.
What?
If you cheat and then actually marry your affair partner, don't expect to ever cross our threshold again.
Alex must have realized his father was serious. Alex immediately pushed Emily, who was standing nearby, away.
There's no way I'd marry her. I'm not that awful of a person.
What? Who cares what your parents think? You should be prioritizing me. Come on.
Even as Emily tried to speak to him, Alex refused to look her way. He seemed genuinely terrified of being disowned. Realizing things weren't going her way, Emily stomped her feet in frustration. Her childish display was so ridiculous that my mother and I had to stifle our laughter.
Fine. I'm leaving.
Emily turned on her heel, attempting to walk away. But I wasn't about to let her leave just like that. I'll be sending a formal notice soon, so be prepared. When I mentioned the compensation claim, Emily looked dumbfounded.
What? You think I'm paying that? You got to be kidding me.
She tried to brush it off and leave, but my mother blocked her path.
Don't you get it yet? You're going to pay. And by the way, I'll also be filing an assault report for that slap earlier.
What? An assault report? That's overboard. She's perfectly fine. Nothing serious happened.
That's irrelevant. If Jessica had been injured or fallen, what would you have done? What you did was dangerous.
My mother continued to corner Emily. Even so, she continued to refuse to pay.
Just so you know, if you don't pay the compensation, we won't let you get away with it.
At that, Emily collapsed to the ground, clearly intimidated by my mother's glare.
Fine, I'll pay, just. Please don't report it.
All her bravado had disappeared, and her voice was now faint. Emily seemed genuinely afraid of my mother. We're also planning to report your harassment, and we have evidence, so prepare yourself.
Wait, please don't go to the police.
Oh, and we'll be claiming compensation and child support from Alex too. Ignoring Emily, I turned to Alex. Then, once again, he deeply apologized to me.
I don't have that kind of money. Please forgive me. I already agreed to the divorce, didn't I?
He kept lamenting about his lack of funds, but that was hardly my concern. He had betrayed both me and our unborn child. He'd have to show genuine remorse.
If you don't pay Jessica what she's owed, we'll cut ties with you.
With his parents on my side, Alex had no choice but to reluctantly agree. In the end, Alex slumped in defeat, muttering through tears.
I'll pay. I get it.
All of this was entirely his own doing. Without looking back at Alex, I left his parents' house with my own parents. I went straight to the hospital with my parents. The examination revealed that my injuries were minor, and the baby was unharmed. It was a relief amidst the unfortunate events. Afterward, I filed the divorce and assault reports. Then, my parents and I returned to my hometown. 3 months have passed since I moved back into my childhood home. Thanks to his parents, Alex has been paying alimony and child support each month. While that part was going well,
Jessica, please. I've learned my lesson. Can't we get back together?
Alex called me a few times. It seems that Alex still hopes for a reconciliation. But honestly, I couldn't even stand the sound of his voice. Enough. I told you, I never want to see your face again. Stay out of my life. I blocked Alex's number and arranged to have all further communication go through his parents. It was clear that I would never have to speak to Alex again. Now, I heard that he lives with his parents, who look down on him coldly. Paying the alimony and child support has left him with no money to live on his own. Apparently, he spends every day trying to repair his relationship with his parents. As for Emily, following the assault report, she was charged with battery. Since it was her first offense, she only received a small fine, but her family cut ties with her. Currently, she's paying compensation to both me and her ex-husband, borrowing heavily to cover it. She lost her job, her savings are gone, and she's struggling financially. Alex's parents mentioned that she hasn't found a new job yet. And recently, I finally gave birth. I had a beautiful baby girl. Both mother and daughter are healthy, and we were discharged right on schedule. Right now, I'm doing my best to manage child rearing. My parents have been incredibly supportive. I can't even count how many times their help has saved me. Both my mother and father absolutely adore their granddaughter and will surely be doting grandparents. For me, the smiles of my daughter and my parents are what keep me going each day. I'm certain that with my family, we can overcome any hardship. From now on, I look forward to living happy days with my parents and my daughter by my side.